It's now my rare honor and privilege to welcome the Acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Zambia, Professor Sikwibele.
I wish to welcome you all to the University of Zambia for the commissioning of this lecture theatre in memory of our legend and giant in Zambia's education terrain, Professor Michael J. Kelly. Let me express my profound gratitude to the Minister of International Development and the Diaspora from Ireland and his team, and the Zambian Minister of Education and his team for gracing this very important and honorable occasion. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Michael J. Kelly was a big name to the University of Zambia and to the global village in terms of teaching, research, and community engagement. Professor Kelly was a mentor of mentors. He mentored staff, students, and even peers, including myself. He was a very reflective, wise, warm, and cheerful person. Professor Kelly was indeed a very decisive and excellent administrator. He raised the profile of the University of Zambia through his massive contributions both internationally and internally. In academia, he wore many jackets. Many knew him as an educationist, but he was actually also a mathematician, a physicist, and a psychologist. Professor Kelly was initially trained in mathematics and physics, but by the National University of Ireland, where he was awarded a Bachelor of Arts degree. He obtained his Master of Arts degree from the same university and specialized in philosophy, child psychology, and educational psychology. Professor Kelly was also trained in educational planning and management. In the 60s, Professor Kelly came to Zambia and taught mathematics and physics at Canisius Secondary School. He headed this school in the early 60s. The school is in Southern Province. In the early 70s, Professor Michael Kelly went to the United Kingdom to pursue his PhD studies at Birmingham University. He then joined the University of Zambia after that in the Department of Educational Administration. At that time, it was called Department of Education. On January 15, 1975, Professor Michael Kelly was appointed as a senior lecturer in the School of Education of the University of Zambia, the school where this lecture theatre is. He subsequently served as Dean of the School of Education between 1975 and 1979. In addition, from 1979 to 1983, Professor Michael Kelly served as one of the principal officers in management of this University of Zambia when he was Deputy Vice Chancellor. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Michael Kelly had an illustrious career. He served the University of Zambia with the highest level of integrity and provided the much needed vision to the university and even to the Ministry of Education. He was adept, consummate, gifted, proficient, skillful, and talented. He contributed massively to the internationalization of the University of Zambia, also in collaboration, establishing collaborations and linkages with other universities and other nations, and also in establishing linkages between the university and the labor market. Professor Kelly's academic contribution and productivity is demonstrated through his massive publications, which includes 17 books, 21 major reports, 17 major chapters in books, conference conference proceedings, which were 8, articles in academic publications 27, articles in JCTR bulletins 33, articles in other publications 42, 6 teaching modules, and 7 forwards and prefaces, etc., etc. This is how amazing Professor Michael Kelly was in the academia. Though gone, Professor Kelly will be remembered in our hearts, and through his works, he will now be forever part of the University of Zambia's memory through this lecture theatre where we are now, which is being commissioned today. In recognition of the vast contributions that Professor Kelly has made to the University of Zambia and to the growth of education in Zambia, both Zambia and globally, on 9th December 2021, the University of Zambia awarded its first ever higher doctorate degree of letters to the late Professor Michael Kelly. The university also renamed this same lecture theatre where we are as the Michael J. Kelly Lecture Theatre. It was previously called the New Education Lecture Theatre, but it has a new name to honor Professor Michael Kelly. Many Zambians now in key areas of education sectors were tutored by Professor Kelly in this very lecture theatre, as we have heard from the Director of Ceremony, who was once his student. The University of Zambia is deeply grateful to the Government of Ireland for the generous support it has rendered in renovating this lecture theatre. On our part, we will endeavour to keep the lecture theatre in a state of good repair so that it remains in a state befitting of this giant we have renamed this theatre after. It is our desire as a university to continue honoring and sustaining the legacy of Professor Michael J. Kelly through a number of ways. One other way in which strengthening of the Education Administration Journal, based in the department in which Professor Kelly worked. The Department of Educational Administration and Policy Studies, that's where he worked. So we want to strengthen the Journal of Educational Administration. That was also the department where I was. The journal was launched in 2019, and it was mostly relied on university institutional funding, which has increasingly become erratic, and therefore, especially after the COVID-19 period, the journal needs some support so that articles and scholastic publications in the areas that he so much cherished could continue to come up. There are various areas in which we want to continue commemorating and remembering him, such as various areas in educational foundations, education policy, economics of education, education administration, philosophy of education, history of education, gender issues in education, areas related to HIV and education, and educational leadership, human resource administration, and other areas in which Professor Michael J. Kelly published and gave leadership through this university. We also plan, ladies and gentlemen, to have annual awards for distinguished performance for both faculty and students. This will be in form of both academic gift and prize money, as well as to the Zambian Teacher Magazine and also the Michael Kelly Awards. Honorable Minister of International Development and the Diaspora, this is one way of honoring Professor Kelly, for which resources permitting, we would appreciate continued partnership with the Irish government. In conclusion, Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to once again thank you all for being part of this memorable and historic occasion at the University of Zambia, where we are commissioning this refurbished Michael J. Kelly Lecture Theatre. I thank you all for coming, and I thank you for listening. God bless you all.